Senator Neil O'Donnell.
Thank you. Can I share time with Senator Lynn Boylan, 4 and 2?
Is that agreed? Agreed.
Thank you. I want to begin my remarks by expressing solidarity with the residents in Skellig Star. I suppose that is the reason we're all here today, primarily. And I want to welcome and thank the Minister for joining us here today. And I do note the welcome extended to her from government senators who voted against the motion to bring the Minister in earlier this morning. I do think that's an important point to make for the purposes of anyone watching it in. Minister, do you accept that the Skellig Star Direct Provision Centre does not comply with the standards and requirements as laid out in the Department of Justice's own guidelines on direct provision published in August 2019? Because isn't it the case, Minister, as I understand it, that direct provision standards can't be applied to emergency accommodation? Now, if that's the reality, that reality sends a shiver down my spine, because fundamentally what it could mean is that this situation could go on. My understanding is, and I've been engaging with my Dáil colleague, Deputy Pa Daly, who's been working tirelessly with the Skellig Star residents and in the local community, that the manager of this facility was told in March, following its closure as a hotel in January, that the new owners would reopen in 3 days as a direct provision centre. 3 days to a manager of a hotel. No proper training provided, no time for proper Garda vetting, nothing. So was it solely a case of get people in and start generating profit for private coffers? And that's the crux of the problem with direct provision, Minister. This system can't be about proper care, welfare and support for people in extreme need, sometimes with complex issues caused by PTSD and other dynamics. People who are facing extreme marginalisation and social isolation, when the main drive for some of these centres is solely to generate profit. Of course, all the failings I've referred to just now are bad and bad enough. And let's be honest, similar problems are widespread throughout the direct provision and emergency accommodation system. But when we then add in the unprecedented dynamic of the COVID-19 crisis, this meant we had even further complexities in how we cared for, protected and kept people safe. It's clear that the Skellig Star wasn't and isn't properly equipped to deal with the needs of the residents there, pandemic or no pandemic. And on that basis, Minister, will you commit to meeting residents there to hear directly about their concerns? Because I don't doubt for one moment, Minister, your sincerity as professed here today in wanting to deal with this issue. I take you very sincerely on that. And will you, Minister, commit to relocating on that basis the residents there to safer and more appropriate accommodation? We shouldn't have to deal with a scenario where the departmental officials are dispatched to the centre this week in order to do what? To ensure that they have safe and clean drinking water. And that shouldn't be held up as some fine example of action taken by the government. That is a basic right and entitlement. We shouldn't be dealing with a situation where residents in Skellig Star are going on hunger strike to protest about their own safety and well-being. So, Minister, I ask you again very directly, very sincerely, will you commit to ensuring these residents, the affected residents in Skellig Star, are urgently relocated to safer, more appropriate and, crucially of all, Minister, more compliant accommodation, and give me a date for that relocation?
Thank you. Senator Boylan.
Thank you, Cahersiveen, and thank you, Minister, for making the time to come in. I'd like to just talk a little bit on the broader issue of direct provision, because the Skellig Star, as awful as the situation is there, it's simply the outworking of a cruel system, and it's a cruel system that will be a stain on this state in years to come. It is a system that belittles and demeans the residents. And I'd like to just give you an example of the experiences in direct provision in this country that I have come to know about through my work and volunteering with Homeless Period Ireland. One woman who had incontinence was offered a bucket by the management of the centre. She had to depend on donations from Homeless Period Ireland. And she's not alone, because many women and girls in direct provision rely on donations of period products to get them through from month to month. And when Minister Staunton in the previous government instructed direct provision centres to provide period products, I know for a fact that in some centres the cheapest products were sought by the centre managers. In fact, they were brands that I have never seen in my 44 years I've come across in any supermarket in this country. But you see, that's what happens when you run a service like this for profit. Residents become cash cows. You get water rationing. You get cheap food. In some cases, in direct provision centres, there was no hot food option. During the summer, you were offered cold salads. You get broken heating. In the Skellig Star was an example during the cold months at the start of the lockdown. So I commend the residents of Skellig Star for taking this stand and shining a light on the woeful conditions that they are put through. And I hope that the Minister, and I do believe that you are sincere, ensures that they are moved as soon as possible. And I also look forward to working with this government in their proposals of how we move from such a provision of for-profit to one that's not for-profit but that's human rights compliant and is a fitting standard for this country.
Thank you. Senator Ivanovic.
Could I share time half and half with Senator Annie Hoey?
That agreed.